Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of At the Movies with William Fletcher. As per usual, I am your host, William Fletcher, and I am joined, as per usual, by Harry Jobson.
What I do?
And finally, after flaking on us for the last 2 weeks, Barney Metcalf.
Damn, man. It's out of order.
You said you would do them, and then you were here, so I'll just...
I didn't say I'd do them, I said maybe.
You said, well, whatever. And we're concluding our retrospective on the entire career of Christopher Nolan. We're finally done with these.
I think you should have done them out of order.
Started at the end.
Then jump to the start, then to the middle, then back to the end, back to the start. Yeah, I think that's how you should have done it.
Just put them in a random order and then just cover them like that.
Yeah, and then just act like it's normal.
And then we are, for this final part, looking at Interstellar, Dunkirk, and Tenet in anticipation of Oppenheimer, which will be out this week, and we'll maybe talk about that a little bit at the end, because Harry, I think, has got some things to say about Oppenheimer, possibly. So, Barney, since you haven't been here the last 2 weeks, what's sort of your general thoughts on Christopher Nolan?
In general, I like Christopher Nolan a lot. Obviously, there are some films I like more than others, but on the whole, I'd say I am a fan of Christopher Nolan.
Well, yes, as Harry, I think Harry and I, we were talking about this, that it's kind of controversial to like Christopher Nolan now, because
he's become a real kind of symbol of like the Sigma males or the film bros.
And he's sort of in that, like, you know, how Quentin Tarantino, people started to turn on Tarantino at a certain point, and James Cameron, you know, all these sorts of directors who, like, were considered incredible filmmakers when they started, were, you know, consistently praised, and then they just sort of reached a certain point, and people were like, oh, these guys are kind of shit now. And just like with James Cameron and Tarantino, I don't really agree. I do think they aren't nearly as good as they used to be. But I still think
I say Christopher Nolan
overall
he's post peak right now.
I think I said this last time. Post Inception, Christopher Nolan's career has been sort of on a slowly downward trajectory in terms of quality. Not to say, well, besides Dark Knight Rises, his post Inception films I don't think are bad. It's just they could be better. Yeah, so I still did not get a chance to see Insomnia, unfortunately. But so
it's
starting.
I think I'm the only one that has seen it then. Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, Harry saw it actually. Harry. Saw it.
It was one of the only films that he didn't write on as well, and you can kind of tell.
Yes, because it's based on like a Swedish.
But yeah, so we're starting with Interstellar, which is interesting because I remember, at the time, because Dark Knight Rises came out, everybody loved it. It was getting all this praise. It's like one of the highest rated films on the IMDb top 250, which Harry and I have discussed is stupid. The IMDb top 250 in general being stupid. Like Memento's like much lower than a lot of weaker films. Like it's like Nolan's 5th or 6th highest rated film on the site, which is a bit low.
A bit much. Yeah, come on.
Because I'd say it's. I mean, I'm biased.
I think it's firmly his second best film.
What do you think is his best film?
The Prestige, baby.
Yes. It's been sitting with me all week. The more I sit with it, the more I love The Prestige.
Yeah, because Harry had not seen The Prestige.
Oh, you lucky fucker!
I watched it for the first time, and I was like,
Inception.
Because I watched it for the first time, and I can't remember how critical I was on it, but I'm looking at
I think give it a 9 when we covered it last week.
Yeah, I remember like really enjoying it, but I remember thinking that some bits were here nor there. But now I'm looking at his list, and I'm like, I don't know. I think The Prestige might be my favorite.
Yeah.
It's got this charm that I can't like explain.
Yeah, Dark Knight Rises comes out, gets all this praise. You know, everybody loves it. It's, you know, one of the highest rated films of the year. It's currently number 69 on IMDb's top 250 of all time, which is very high. And then Interstellar comes out, and it gets a bit more of a mixed reaction. I remember people were talking like, "This is Nolan's first misstep. This is shit. This is terrible
you have
film."
memories of this?
Well, I've listened to podcasts from like 2014 when it came out,
Okay, so not
and people were just
know about
bitching about it.
I was going to say
I
it's
listened
very
to
strange for a 10-year-old to be up to date with the internet's
no,
standing on Christopher Nolan.
I want to make it. I think Interstellar is an alright
I
film.
think it's got
I'm gonna
a bit
slack it
more
off a
of a
bit.
resurgence. I think people
Yeah,
now
I mean
like it a lot more.
it's currently 26th on IMDb's top 250 of all time.
Okay, these people
which is
hate themselves.
I'm someone who like uses IMDb a lot, and like, look, I talk a lot of shit about Letterboxd, and I think rightfully so because Letterboxd is shit, but IMDb is also shit, but just in a different way.
They're all
like
shit.
they're both got stupid people on both sides, but in different directions. Like people who've got wild, like very strange opinions on films. But it got like IMDb's a much more like film bro-y, like more populist type thing. Whereas Letterboxd is more of a arty, pretentious side of. But anyway, yeah, Interstellar. I don't think it's amazing. I think there's a lot that I like about it, but I don't think it all comes together. First of all, I think it's a bit long. It's
it's a very long film.
It's far too long, and I was happy because I had to watch Dunkirk for the first time for this, and when I saw it was like an hour 42, I was like, thank God, because I'm so used to Nolan having like 2.5 to 3 hour in that ballpark, and I was like, thank God that Dunkirk is comparatively much shorter. Yeah, I think it's alright. I don't love it, but I think there's a lot I do like, but there's also a lot that I don't like that very much detracts from the film. And I don't know, I mean, of course I don't know. I think Harry's going to be much more positive, I think.
On Interstellar?
Maybe. On Interstellar, yeah.
I'm not like a big... Okay, so just to jump right in, kiddos, I'm not a huge fan of Matthew McConaughey as an actor. I think he's great, but he just has that like tone that is very I find it hard to get into the character and not see just Matthew McConaughey. Like
he never disappears into a character. It's just always Matthew McConaughey.
It's Matthew McConaughey. Like when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, look, Matthew McConaughey's an astronaut. I'm not thinking about the character being that astronaut. You know what I mean?
Well, look, Matthew McConaughey's got AIDS.
Yeah, that's a favorite storyline of the Matthew McConaughey universe. But
Matthew McConaughey's chatting to Jordan Belfort, doing
Matthew McConaughey's beating his chest in
Matthew McConaughey is
Destro. No, I get what you mean though. He's hard to. I mean, I like Matthew McConaughey in this, but it's not like it's not a role. It's not like a performance that I'd be like, oh, this is an incredible performance.
He does well. Like, I think he does well, especially given the narrative that Nolan sort of... See, the thing with Nolan is that he loves to fuck with time. Time is his favorite thing. If you've ever watched a Nolan film, which I like to think that I have, I've noticed that
you're not sure, but you like to think that you've seen some of this film.
I don't know. Maybe time is all jumbled up.
But that's all.
So we're going.
That's like it's so a lot of what he writes anyway is focused on like the fixation of time and how it works and how it can be manipulated, and it always has something to do with the end of the world. We'll talk about that in Tenet. I just with this film, I feel like it's so I couldn't watch it without comparing it instantly in my head to 2001's A Space Odyssey by Kubrick. And I feel like it's almost it's almost like like an adaptation, but not at all. If that makes sense, they're so similar in a lot of ways, but create like such a dissonance with the like. There's
They're just
so much.
space movies.
No, but there's distant because it's about forwarding the production of man and having someone else help with the idea. See, in the film 2001: Space Odyssey, it's the monoliths, right, that allow man to become something bigger, whereas or aid in man's like advancement. Whereas in this film, it's the placement of the wormhole. I don't know. I feel as if this film focuses so much more on the character and at that than 2001: Space
I
Odyssey
mean,
does.
it's worth
Like,
acknowledging that this is kind of the first time in Christopher Nolan's career where he's kind of attempted to, tell an emotional story.
yeah, and I think
Yeah,
it
and
failed.
I think that's where a lot of the
Yeah,
criticism comes
that's
from.
what people
I feel
got
like
upset about. They were like, no.
And I I don't know if this is controversial to say. I don't know. Because we'll talk about Tenet later. Look, I'd rather a filmmaker try something new and fails than just sticking with the same old thing and not trying to progress or improve themselves as a filmmaker. I don't like I'm of the idea that I'd rather have like someone go for something new that doesn't pan out than just see the same thing again.
Yeah, than just seeing them beating a dead horse. Like it's a tired concept. The idea of messing with time, Nolan. But as you get like further into his discography, and especially with Interstellar, it is a much more personal story, and I think it suffers because of that. I think that it like I think I quite like the film. Don't get me wrong. Hans Zimmer really whipped out his big old horse schlong for this one. I think the whole there's not much to say about Hans Zimmer's work in this. It is, I think, one of his
Barney,
best.
I don't even think we've let you say what you think of this film. I think we've just been.
You guys have just been monologuing, and I've just kind of been politely waiting for a gap. Yeah,
Barnaby.
I quite like Interstellar. I think it's very. I'm not sure everything in it works, but I've seen it twice. I think I can confidently say that I do like the film quite a bit.
There's one part of this film that makes it better for me. One specific part. We could say one person, and that person's Matt Damon. I love Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
I
don't like the Matt Damon stuff.
No.
The Matt Damon stuff.
I don't mind the Matt Damon stuff.
I think his character is like it doesn't really do much for me. Like overall, he's there and then he dies.
It's just Matt Damon.
But I like Matt Damon, so like, thank you. I think the whole like weird kind of romance subplot with Anne Hathaway is so stupid, and it makes like I'm like, oh my god, it feels like it's trying to do too much. Like with concept, like the whole idea of time being circular and the black hole and blah blah blah. A lot of the stuff with Nolan's science, it's easier to just not understand it and go with it.
I mean,
I
get that way by the time he goes into the black hole and he's in the weird cube.
I'm just like
when he's in the book store.
That bit, I'm just like, fuck it, just do what you want at this point.
I think the thing with Nolan is I'm sure his movies probably do make sense if they are explained to you. Yeah, but they're not like he gets it. I'm sure like all his like I'm sure Tenet probably makes sense.
There must be a universe where Tenet makes some sense.
But watching it doesn't make any. Yeah, I think. But anyway, Matthew McConaughey, Matt Damon. There's a few women in this one.
Yeah, he tried writing women
more than expected. And Harry and I have talked about. Barnett, what's your perspective on this? We Harry and I talked about Nolan and just killing off women or using them to further a male character's plot. Like, do you have any like perspective? Because like I don't. I think a lot of people complain. We've touched this. People think Nolan's female characters are underdeveloped, but I'd kind of argue most of his characters are. Like beyond, like even his protagonist, I'd argue
they're all kind of vague. That's not really what Christopher Nolan does. Character pieces aren't his thing. In terms of the whole killing women to further the men's story. I think, yeah, that is something he is guilty of. To the point that,
Yeah,
the
I mean,
plots of Memento and The Prestige kind of kick off because of dead wives.
no, but I think and I'm not saying he's not guilty of it, and it's not like a common thing. I'm just sort of like, I
It's
don't find his I'm not bothered by his lack of character development for the female characters because I
Yeah, I
don't
don't
think
think
any of his
I mean, that's
characters
why I like The
have like
Prestige because I think the main characters in that are
it's more of a
quite
yeah.
interesting.
But yeah, there's a few women, and this one guy, Anne Hathaway, who just has. I've never understood the hate Anne Hathaway gets.
Neither have I.
Like, because
It's
it
just
seems
kind
like
of
just
been
for
a thing
years,
where people are like, "Oh, fucking Anne Hathaway," and
and
I'm
I'm
just
just
kind of there in the comments going like, "Yeah, what?
yeah.
Why?"
And I've looked it up in the past. Like, why don't people like Anne Hathaway? Because I don't think she's an inherently dislikable person. I
But I
don't
think
think she's.
people
I think
really
she's a
got pissed at her when
great.
she won an Oscar, and the first thing she said was like, "Oh, it
Yeah.
came true, like a wish or something."
But I know I think she's very talented. I think she's very good. I mean, in Les Mis, she's very great in like 12 minutes, and I think she's all right here. I'm not bothered about her in The Dark Knight Rises, but I don't think she's terrible. I think she's fairly
Yeah,
all
no,
right
she's
in
doing a
this.
good job.
I think most of the
yeah.
actors you were
No,
saying.
no, 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 no. You were talking about character. I was just gonna quickly mention on Anne Hathaway. Um, her character in this film is just like, for me personally, kind of annoys the fuck out of me. But I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like it's Matthew McConaughey's story. And
I mean,
she's
it
just
is,
like
yeah.
there for like a bit of the subplot, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like she's just there for
Yeah, which is, I mean,
so,
it's
so Michael Caine could
fine.
film for some reason.
It's,
We needed a Michael
um,
Caine daughter, baby.
but yeah, Michael Caine
Oh,
making his
okay.
obligatory Nolan appearance.
Yeah,
And to
he's
be
like
fair,
Nolan Stanley.
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah, he's in it. He basically,
I think
yeah.
from Batman
Um,
Begins onwards, he's in pretty much all of them, right?
he's in the Prestige. He's in the Dark Knight. Is he in? Who's he in
Oh, he's not
Dunkirk?
in that.
But I know he's in Tenet.
I thought
And yeah, he's
he's
in
not
all
I
of
in
don't
them.
think
Dunk.
so, no.
Yeah, yeah, he is. Fortis
Oh, is he?
leader,
I-
uncredited.
He's not got a
I
proper
don't
role.
know.
Yeah, as
Yeah,
Fortis
he's not like a.
but does Stan Lee have a proper role
Yeah,
in
but
any of the Marvel?
the difference is that Michael Caine's actually an actor.
Hey, look,
Yeah,
it's
Michael
canonical.
Caine's a
You're using
well-respected,
the Stan Lee thing as an
Oscar-nominated.
argument, even though that's an argument, like a comparison that you made.
Hey, look, look, I'm right. No, old white man appearing in cameos of movies. Just let it be the Nolan canon.
All of
Just
Michael Caine's characters are
just let
actually
it.
the same person.
Yeah. Who else is in this film? I've got the
So,
cast. Jessica Chastain. I really like Jessica Chastain. I think she's very good in
rule of thumb, yeah,
general.
she's a solid talent. Little Timmy Shamalama Ding Dong, he's in it.
Yeah, Timothée,
Marte.
young Timmy. He's I think this is like one of his earliest film roles as well. I think this was like one of his first films he did. But yeah, he's in it. And there's also Casey Affleck.
He's
a
the
bit
older
of a
version of
problematic one.
Timothy Chalamet.
I mean, honestly, outside of Matthew McConaughey and maybe Jessica Chastain,
I
I'm not
really like
bothered
the
about the
I need to look
characters.
up what the actor's name is. David Gia. See, the guy that plays Romilly, one of the other astronauts. The one when they go down to the big water planet, they come back and he's all aged. And I like him.
To be fair, I do think this film doesn't quite work at the emotional level it's trying to be pitched at. I feel
I
like
think
it
some
does
bits
sort
of
of
it
fall a bit
work,
short.
but other stuff with I think when McConaughey leaves his house and his daughter's getting all sad, and the fact that he pretty much misses her entire life, I think that works quite well.
I do really like the scene where McConaughey he's like watching the
And
video
just starts crying
of his daughter or
Bless him.
whatever, and he's like, yeah, I actually think
It's
that's
a
a
well
very
performed
good.
scene.
I think that's actually a very
I
good
don't think
scene.
it's It doesn't really particularly connect with me emotionally. I acknowledge that there is emotion there, but I'm like, oh, poor Matthew McConaughey. I don't really do that. And I appreciate his acting.
Yeah.
I can do that, but I never think, oh, that's sad.
I always had.
Yeah, this film is. We haven't really talked that much about this film. It deals with time travel, which
Sort of.
I really
That's-
liked. I think
But
time
there's a lot.
travel.
It's not really time
Yeah, sort of.
travel. It's like time relativity.
I just feel
Yeah.
like it's a lot of Nolan's. Like this isn't a foreign concept for Nolan, and I feel like a lot of his films sort of hinder around the idea of time or time travel, and I feel like he hasn't figured out how it works. And I feel like I'm smarter than him, and he should just hurry up and figure it out, or I'm just gonna tell him. Because the MCU figured
And
it
then
out
broke
in one
their own
film.
rules.
Not to be like, oh, the MCU's better, but
And
yeah,
then,
no,
and
they
then
broke
the rules.
yeah, they broke the rules, but they still figured out like one that made sense in my brain. Like Back to the Future couldn't your new future cannot affect your old past. That should be a fundamental rule of time travel. Okay. No, it's a good science fiction film. I just feel like it struggles with the characters, because it creates such a high concept and scope. Whereas when we're going to talk about Dunkirk in a minute, Dunkirk does scope a lot better than this film does.
Is that because there are more sniper
This
rifles?
film like really sacrifices its yeah exactly. I feel like this film, especially when like in comparison to something like 2001: A Space Odyssey, which a lot of, whether or not they're both set in space or not, there's always going to be the comparison just because of the importance of the film 2001. But I feel like the main difference is that it's supposed to be telling a personal story. But I feel like either it dives into the personal story too much at points where it takes away from the purpose, or the purpose takes away from the personal story, and they can't. The two can't coexist in this film. But I feel like there's a world they can. But I feel like the film that we were given, they don't.
I feel like Nolan was trying to do a bit too much with the film.
Yeah.
And wasn't able to properly balance it all. So
And
it just sort
I
of
think
feels
he really
like...
needs to focus on the emotional stuff if he wanted to include it in a film. Because it does just kind of feel like, you know, a robot being like, what is this feeling you humans call love? And
to talk about, I think visually, I think this might be Nolan's best in terms of the effects and the locations and all that. I think, I love the scene where they go to like that water like planet or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like Shinhai or whatever. I think that's great, and I think that's a very. We talked about sort of Hans Zimmer and how we sort of post. There's like a certain like post like Inception maybe. Hans Zimmer's felt very lazy as a composer.
I'd say this isn't one of those cases.
And I feel like. No, I'd say this is a pretty I mean, I was referring to stuff like Dune and that, you know, which is just shite. But I think the music here and Dunkirk as well. I think the score is very good. I wouldn't put it as Hans Zimmer's best. Honestly, I think Hans Zimmer's best for me would probably be like Rain Man or something. You know, one of his old films from a while ago. Yeah, maybe. Like there's individual tracks in Kung Fu Panda that I think are like his best work, but I think as an overall package, Lion King or like Rain Man or something. But I think the score he's very good. I don't know if it's because I watched this at home, but I wasn't bothered by the sound mixing. Because I know a lot of people have problems with the sound mixing. I think the sound, the sound. I wasn't bothered, and I don't know if it's because I was watching it at home and not in a cinema. Because I did have that problem with Tenet when I saw it, but I wasn't bothered by the sound mix with either Dunkirk or Interstellar. I think people. How do I put this? I think there are valid complaints about Nolan. I think people just use them in the wrong situations, if that makes sense. Like, I think it's fair to criticize his sound mixing at times, but I don't think it's all of his sound mixing is bad.
I just find
or
it annoying
anything,
because I'm like, I just
at
want to
least
hear what
from
they're
my
saying.
perspective. Yeah, I don't have as much this. I mean, we've been recording for a little while already, but I just don't think. I think Interstellar gets a lot of praise that I don't think it is like it deserves. I do think it is very overrated, but I don't dislike it.
I'd give it
Yeah, I give it a 7.
I think maybe a bit generous. I'd give it an 8. I think there are some great kind of concepts for scenes and stuff in here, and I think visually it is very impressive. Although I think the emotional stuff is kind of hit and miss. Bits of it work, bits of it don't. But yeah, 8.
Yeah, it's a 7 for me. I think that it's just not good enough to sort of live up to what it should be, and I think that hinders it.
After that, I followed that up with
Oh.
Dunkirk, which I watched for the first time last night.
Great film. Great film.
I wouldn't go that far.
I'll
I'd
go
say
somewhere in the
good
middle
film.
and say quite a good film.
It's a great film. Harry Styles, who would have thought?
Yeah, no, look, it's good. Don't get me wrong. I had a weird thing with this film where I was fairly unengaged for the first like half of it. I was just like, I don't really care. But once the sort of action sort of kicks off, like they get stuck in the like boat or whatever they're stuck in, and that, then I started to get into the film, and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. And by the end, I really quite liked it. It took a while to get there, but yeah, no, I thought it was good. It just took a while to get to a point that I was enjoying it. I think this sort of falls a bit short because I feel like with war films, I kind of feel like there has to be a character. Well, for me anyway, I kind of need a character story to follow. Something like 1917, for example, has a very good character story in there, and I feel like this film kind of is lacking that.
I
And
feel
I know
like
that's sort of not the point of it, but I feel like it would work better if it was doing that kind of thing. At least from sort of my perspective.
Oh, I
I
don't
think it would have
disagree
worked
with
better.
you. My favorite war film is Hacksaw Ridge, and it is pretty much a character film, like through and through. But it literally is told from the perspective of one guy. We see this one man's
No, I'm not
perspective of
disagreeing
the
with you.
war.
I'm just finding it interesting that Hacksaw Ridge is your favorite war film.
Well,
That was
I'm not a big war film person. It's between that or Mel Gibson's Gallipoli. Like,
two Mel
and
Gibson,
Did Mel Gibson direct
films.
Gallipoli?
yeah, I
thought
know,
that
which
was
is
a piece of weird.
unfortunate. But I see like, and oh no, you got Full Metal Jacket. You've got All Quiet on the like Western Front. I just think I quite like the like
Yeah, that's
Hacksaw
what
Ridge
that's
is a
what I
film
It's
because
got
I like
Mel Gibson stars in it. It's directed by Peter Weir, but it's Mel
yeah.
Gibson in the lead. Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. With this it really shows the entire scope of the evacuation of Dunkirk, which 300,000 soldiers evacuated from like to tell that story from the perspective of one man would be doing it an injustice. Plus, I also want to mention this is like the third or fourth Nolan film with both Cillian Murphy and Tom Hardy. So go them.
Still got a funny mask on.
Yeah, I feel like the scope.
So yeah, I watched it last night, and yeah, it took a while for me to get into the film and enjoy it, but yeah, once it all sort of is kicking off and all the actions happening, I quite liked it.
For me, I do quite like the
I thought there
film.
was some good
It doesn't
stuff
really
there.
play out like a story. It just kind of it plays out like a sort of a series of events
Nah, it's just sort of a
depicting
series of
the evacuation
events,
of Dunkirk. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, but because I'm not sure
which
you
is
can get
fine.
much
I
of a
don't like.
story there, other than we're just waiting for the boats to arrive, or you make your main characters
Yeah,
people on the boat
I
to save them, but that's not really about Dunkirk that
yeah.
way.
I guess it depends on yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Whereas like
rather
1917
than
is just
focusing on
about
like
following these two
hundreds of
characters,
people that are
and Dunkirk
on the beach.
aren't. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, as was mentioned before, Cillian Murphy, I think
Who
I've
is he in this?
said
I've
before. I think
forgotten.
he's very
He's
good.
like a
I really
shock
like him in
soldier, isn't he?
things. He's yeah, he's just yeah, and they want to like go back to the whatever, and he's like, no, I can't do that. But yeah, I like Cillian Murphy. Yeah, no, I think he's a good actor. I was surprised to see
Yeah,
Barry
I do.
Keoghan. I think that's how you say his name. I still don't know. I've heard his
Keoghan.
name said many different ways, but I think it's Barry Keoghan.
Don't
I
mind him,
really
yeah.
like Barry Keoghan. I
I
think he's a
forgot
very
he's
good
in this
actor.
actually. Yeah.
Who else? Yeah, Harry Styles.
I don't know what the fuck Harry
Whatever.
Styles is.
I can do without
Like,
Harry
why
Styles,
is
to
he
be
suddenly
honest.
decided that he's doing acting?
No,
And of all of the films
I
to pop it
don't.
up in
I
first,
don't know. I
Dunkirk,
really don't
what?
know because yeah, like I don't. I don't. Yeah, and I just find Harry Styles to be a weird like. Why is he like? I know he's a musician. He was part of One Direction, which is like fine. You know, I've not listened to their music. You know, you got Kenneth Branagh. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about Kenneth Branagh in general
Yeah.
because I really liked him in the Harry Potter film he was in, but I don't think he's a very good filmmaker. I think he's a very I
He's
don't
not
think
good though.
I wouldn't go to say bad. I just don't think he's got a lot to offer. No, he's not good, but
Was it
he's
for direct?
he's a bloody Oscar winner. I don't like that's just weird.
Oh yeah.
No, it's for original screenplay for Belfast. Yeah, I think like the action, the way it's all like the cinematography, as expected with Nolan, is fantastic because it's Nolan. You know,
Is he
he's
doing
very
his own
good at the
cinematography in
whole
this one?
the filmmaking, isn't he? You
Well,
know,
it's not like
I
him, though.
like no, it's just like in his films, like he's always got it's always no, but I mean his film, like the
I don't
cinematography is
think it doesn't
always
look
great
like
in his film.
Wally
He's
Pfister.
not Wally Pfister. Wally Pfister didn't do this one.
He's a
No, but he
renegade.
doesn't use shot lists. Well, fucking, how annoying must that be?
The biggest thing
Um,
that was a plus about this film for me was that it managed to cover the scope without, I think, purposefully as well. It's the first Nolan film I feel like I've watched where I'm like, oh, this is
It's more about the
purposefully not
situation, I
giving any
guess, than it is
depth
to
to the
people.
characters. Yeah, it's more
yeah,
about the evacuation of
Kid that
Dunkirk.
falls over
I
and
don't
hits
give a
his head
fuck
and
about
dies.
Tommy or George or I don't know. Like, yeah,
yeah,
it's
he
like
becomes
Was it Barry Keoghan that
blind.
died?
Barry Keoghan just actually bonks his head on something and he dies. Yeah,
Yeah, he falls down some
yeah, it's
small
Barry
steps and
Keoghan.
hits his head and
He's
dies.
like he hits his head or something and then he's like, oh, I'm blind.
yeah, in
Yeah,
the
well,
middle
he's
of
like,
a
I'm
war, I
blind.
feel
I
like
can't.
that's one of the
That's an
most
English
niche
accent
way
one.
to die is
But
during a war.
yeah, he's like, I can't see, and then he dies,
I think you
and
are.
then we're meant to feel
I certainly
sad
don't
or
think
whatever.
you're meant to be
Well,
like,
maybe
oh no, oh
not.
well, look,
I don't
that
know.
guy's just fallen
There's
over,
like
hit
a
his head and
moment. There's
died.
like
Ha, little prick had it coming.
there's a.
I think you are meant to feel upset about it.
I sort of thought that the film was very good at being able to create tension, like in the scene where they're in sort of the boat and there's like they're being shot, the boat's being like shot at or
Yeah.
whatever, like the target. I thought that was a very engaging scene, and then when it starts to flood and they've got to like plug the holes, but then some guy gets like shot in the eye or whatever, and he's like, you know, as you do when you get shot
Oh
in the
my
eye, you're like,
eye!
ah.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, I think because this film isn't particularly dense in narrative, but is
And
really
the
just, I
plot
feel like
of
almost
$6.
like they filmed a war. Well, where it is a very heavy drama. It's a heavy dramatized, like it's
It's
really
got a really nice
dramatized
production value.
beyond belief, like any war film
Hmm.
is. But it's like, but I think a lot of
yeah,
these shots, the cinematography, the actual
Yeah,
fact
yeah.
that like even to fill in the extras, they used cardboard cutouts and they didn't use CGI.
And
The
they really set
planes were
fire to it at the
real,
end.
like vintage war, like Spitfires. I don't know. I feel like it's just a beautiful film. Shot wise, the practicality of it, I really like the sound design in it. There's not much to speak
Yeah.
again about the characters. Yeah, but this one they do it purposefully. But I feel like the other Nolan films, it's like he doesn't purposefully misuse the characters as much as he does just focus on the overarching like plot. Whereas I think from a narrative perspective, it doesn't. He's not missing out on the characters. It's like it's purposeful. Where I feel like, let's say in Inception, there are some characters that feel underdeveloped, because the plot is such a because it's such a expansive idea that a lot of the characters suffer because of that in Inception. Same with Interstellar. Yeah, I guess we move on to ratings for Dunkirk.
Yeah. I give it a very weak and maybe very generous 8.
I've got a kind of unstable 7.5.
Yeah, I give it a strong 7.5 to weak 8. And that just comes from I really do like the film. I feel like I cherish character a lot more in a film than anything else.
I mean, yeah, I generally do, but I mean, if a film isn't trying, I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I guess it depends on what it is, but I kind of, if there was more of a character element to it, maybe. But I guess I don't know if the film would work as well. But so yeah, Dunkirk, one of only 2 Nolan films to get a Best Picture nomination, which is interesting.
It was really good.
We're gonna end this all off with Tenet. I think this was the first film I saw at the cinema in like I think the last film I'd seen prior to Tenet was like The Invisible Man in like February, and then about 6-7 months later I saw Tenet in cinemas because Nolan was very very insistent on it going into cinemas at a time where cinemas shouldn't have been open because and people were getting COVID and dying every day, but he was very insistent on that. And then he this is also the last film he will, well, for now anyway, produce with Warner Brothers, because they decided to basically be like, hey, next year we're going to put all our films on HBO Max as well as in cinemas because some people can't go to the cinema. And he's like, that's terrible. Why would you do that? That's the death of cinema. And it's like, dude, people can't go into the cinema. Some people just can't.
Yeah, I like Nolan, but he gives off a bit of a crybaby vibe when it comes to the whole COVID cinema thing.
Well, he's a very big proponent of like cinema. Streaming. I remember when Spielberg was getting upset because Netflix films were getting Oscar nominated. It's like, they shouldn't be nominated, guys. They should be nominated for Emmys because they're technically TV films, which doesn't make any sense either, to be honest. That's very strange. But it's just like there's a certain a certain age of filmmakers like, cinema's dying, guys. And it's just like, well, it's I don't know. It's definitely not the same thing, I think. But to be honest, would Tenet have done better even without COVID? Because I feel like
no, it's not a great film.
The reception was not that amazing for Tenet. I feel like it was very mixed. I'm just looking at now, 7.3 on IMDb, which I feel like is a bit higher than I thought it would have been, to be honest. 69% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 3.4 on Letterboxd. So that's actually not too bad, to be honest. But to be fair, would this have done better if COVID wasn't around? I mean, it would have done better, but I don't know how much better it would have done. I mean, this is one of the weakest Nolan films. I think we can all agree. I'd say it's probably second weakest, but it's not amazing. I wish I'd prepared a quiz for this, because that would have been a lot more fun to have a fun quiz at the end of this. The thing is, we were meant to have another person on who unfortunately could not do it, and I think they would have been able to offset our negativeness. I think they would have been more positive than us. Look, I do not hate Tenet. I think there's a lot of great ideas at play. I just think, from my memory of seeing it, because I did not rewatch it, which maybe I should have, but I didn't feel like watching a 2.5 hour film again that I'm not a big fan of. I feel like it probably could make sense and possibly does, but it just doesn't. I just remember coming out of it being like, so what the fuck happened? I was just like, what is? Look, well, no. The thing is, I think generally when people are like, oh, Nolan's so clever, it's like, is he though? Like Inception, I don't get people who are like Inception's hard to figure out. I'm like, no, it's not.
Pretty
It's
straightforward.
pretty simple. I thought Inception is like very obvious in what it's doing.
With Tenet, this has to be the most dense and stupidly confusing fucking use of time in any film. It's basically the bullet, because like the relativity, right? Theory of relativity. Time, everything's relative, so it's time. So the bullet experiences time, and we experience time, and the bullet is reversed because its experience of time is reversed because of a future fallout of nuclear radiation of the end of the world that this guy causes. I don't know. Like, just be better. Why did Nolan's whole shtick is trying to confuse him, and I feel like Nolan confused himself making this film.
No.
Because can either of you actually make sense of how it works?
I didn't. I mean, I saw it once 3 years ago, but no, I feel like, and this is a film. I was just looking at
Sensible
Letterboxd ratings of people I follow, and most people seem to give it like a 7. Like 3 people give it a 9, which is fucking
Wild.
insane. Like that is insanity, and I feel like it's a film that
I read a Letterboxd review from someone I follow, and they rewatched this film the other day, and they said something to the effect of that, they love the complexity of the plot. And see, there are a lot of films that I like where they are, I guess, complex, and they're like, I compare it to, you take your wired headphones out your pocket, you need to untangle them. It's rewarding in the end. But Tenet is like, you take your headphones out of your pocket, you have to untangle them, then you give up and you throw it into the road, and then a car runs over
yeah.
them and it causes a multi-car pile-up, and it's just an absolute mess.
I just don't. I feel like this is a film though that people are like, oh, you just don't get it because you're stupid, and it's like, no, I actually don't think it makes any sense. It doesn't. It's shit. No, it's not shit. It's just it's not. I find the discourse around it kind of annoying because people are like, oh, this is the worst film ever. I'm like, don't go that far. People are like, oh, you're just a moron and you don't get it. I'm like,
I
okay,
think
you're a dumb fuck too. All right, shut
it's
up. Like it's like it's fine. It is a fine movie. It is a movie that exists and that I just can do without though. Like I don't know why it needed to be made. Yeah, I just the characters are just whatever. I mean, you're calling your main character the protagonist. Like, come on. Like that's just not. That just seems so lazy, doesn't it? Like that's just not. I kind of feel like I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I like Robin Pattinson. I think he's a good actor.
Yeah.
I think. Well, also he gained a lot of respect when he said method actors were dicks. I appreciate that because most of them are. Like I also appreciate that he was like, yeah, I'm not gonna get massively ripped for Batman. I'm not gonna kill myself for this role, which is good. That's much better. That's a good idea. But yeah, I think he's alright in this. I think it's probably my favorite part of the film, to be honest. I don't know. Who even was Aaron Taylor Johnson in Tenet? I have no memory of his character.
He was so when you watch in
Yeah.
the end of Tenet where they're doing the big thing and they're doing they're in the army base thing.
Yeah.
And
Okay, very different.
he's the army soldier with the beard that goes in the tunnel with the protagonist.
I've just looked him up, and There's like 3 pictures of him in the film, and then there's just a bunch of pictures of him in a suit at like red carpets.
Yeah, look up Bullet Train, Aaron Taylor Johnson.
I've seen. You just want to talk about Aaron Taylor Johnson, mate.
You brought him up.
Yeah, well,
I'd let him go. I'd let him go. You can't be bringing back up Aaron Taylor Johnson and not me talking about how good he was in Bullet Train, Kick Ass, Quicksilver. He's going to be Kraven the Hunter.
He does not work as Kraven the Hunter. I'm sorry, he does not fit
He
that
does. Look at the photo. Oh my god, he looks like a great Kraven.
Again, I feel like there's trying to do more character stuff. I feel like, well, or trying to. I think Nolan was, and it doesn't work as well. Like the whole Elizabeth Debicki and her son doesn't really feel.
I really don't have that much to say about the film. I'm just really nothing on it.
Yeah, I just didn't like get what was happening. Oh yeah, I thought the sound mixing was fucking dreadful when I saw it. I literally thought I was gonna go deaf. It was so loud I could. And half the characters are wearing masks, so it's just like, oh, this.
We should continue
I'm giving you expositional dialogue that you can't make out.
Because I have an oxygen mask in front of my face. Literally worse than Bane.
At least with Bane, I can make out Bane's dialogue. I thought the music was nice. Wasn't done by Hans Zimmer, done by Ludwig Göransson. At the time I thought it was very good, but I don't remember any tracks. But it's done by Ludwig Göransson, who I'm a big fan of. I think Ludwig Göransson is great. Yeah, I just think this film. It's also long. It's like 2.5 hours.
Oh, it's so long.
I've got it at 6.5.
I give it a very weak 7.
I think I will watch it again someday, just so that I can be like, yeah, fuck this movie. 3 out of 10.
I don't know if I'll ever want to watch it again. To be honest, that's the thing. It's not like The Prestige or Inception or anything like that. I'm like, oh mate, if I catch it on TV, I'm just be like, oh, Tenet, no. But if I caught like Inception or whatever, like, yeah, I'll watch this.
It's like a 5.5 for me. It just got no fucking character. No character. The whole storyline is so stupid. Like, oh, they use a T.S. Eliot quote, and it annoys me because it's just not worth the film. 5.5.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of missed opportunity. The idea of like going backwards, like it, like, you know, and it's not really a palindrome. I feel like it has some great ideas. It just doesn't fully use them. And I'm willing to give Nolan credit for having some interesting ideas, but that doesn't mean I have to appreciate them or think they're well handled. It's just fine. But if it wasn't made, I would not give a shit. And so yeah, that is Nolan's filmography finally done.
Cool.
We've got we're tying this into Oppenheimer, which seeing this week, opening day, pairing it with Barbie because I've literally got nothing better to do with my life, and I will happily sit in a cinema.
Are you watching it in IMAX?
No, just because of the way.
William.
Well, that was the only way I could make it work. I think. Like, I'm gonna look at like times now, but yeah, Oppenheimer. I've like not seen any. I've avoided like promotional material for the two films. Like, I've barely seen anything. Like, I know what it's about. You know, there are no IMAX screenings of Barbie. That's a bit annoying, isn't it? I could have done Barbie at 10 a.m. and then done like a 12 p.m. Actually, no, that wouldn't have worked because it would have gone in. It would have spilled over. Yeah, it wouldn't have worked. So, yeah, Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy. I think Cillian Murphy will probably do very good. I do wonder though how well the character elements. This seems like a very character-based film, and Nolan isn't very good at that, as we've established. But I'm doing Barbieheimer. I'm looking forward to it though. It should be good, I reckon. And Barbie, I want Barbie to be good. I want to be wrong about Barbie. I want to like it, but I've not been sold on Greta Gerwig, so I don't know.
Yeah, I can't do a double feature because I have work. So I'm
imagine
having.
I have work too.
Yeah.
Full on 9 to 5 job, like a proper adult job.
Yeah, it sucks. No, it's fine. But I'll watch Barbie another night. I'm not too amped up about
Well, yeah,
Barbie,
because
to be
Harry,
frank.
you were saying off this that like you were really excited for Oppenheimer. You like were really
I'm
looking forward to it.
so excited for Oppenheimer. I just have this like I've looked at all the promotional material available for it.
The poster looks a bit terrible though, doesn't it? It's just it's a barrage of orange, and
It's
it doesn't
really
look that
red, yeah, but it's better than Floating Heads. Like I don't need to see Cillian Murphy and Matt Damon and bloody what is it? The guy Brandon, the dude who plays Roderick from Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
So thank you all for joining us for this week's episode. Nolan's career is finally done. We don't have to talk about it again. Well, until Oppenheimer comes out, and we'll discuss that in the review of the year. And hopefully by then, I will have seen Insomnia, and Harry will have seen Following. Thank you both for joining me. This was a bit all over the place, I felt like. No real structure.
Like
just
a
sort
lot of Nolan's films.
Well, I'd say they have structure. I'd just say they have, good. They have a sort of out there structure. Sort of they're going against the form, and I'm rambling on. So yes, thank you all for listening to this week's episode. I hope you've enjoyed this Nolan retrospective, because we won't be doing another one of these for a little while. So I hope you all have enjoyed this week's episode, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.